Are you looking to up your real estate investing game? Well, you're in the right place. Welcome to the Sub 2 Deals Show with your host, Sub 2 expert William Tingle.
Hey, Sub-Tours, this is William Tingle of sub2deals.com. I'd like to welcome you to our next episode of the Sub-2 Deals Show. Today is a Real Investor Series episode, and we're bringing back one of our favorite investors to talk to, Lara Kimbrell. She's here. In our last interview with Lara, we talked just an overview about her business and what she does. And one of the techniques that she uses to generate leads was so new and interesting. We've had so many questions about it. She has graciously agreed to come back and go more in depth into exactly how that works, so you guys can take that information and go out there and use it yourself in your own markets. So welcome, Lara, back to the Sub 2 Deal Show.
Thank you so much, William. I'm glad to be back.
Well, we're certainly glad to have you. Always a pleasure. You've got an amazing story. And for people that may be listening to this for the first time, or even just a refresher for the people that have listened before, tell us just a little bit about your background and how you got into real estate.
Well, I started out, my formal education background is in physics. And so I did that, I taught and did research for about 12 years. And then I stayed home to be a full-time mom. I've got 4 children, and we just had a bunch of birthdays. So now they are 6, 8, 9, and 17. And so that keeps me quite busy. While I was being a full-time mom, my husband was working at the BP refinery down in Texas City. And a little while ago, he was injured. I was doing some online marketing and had some success from that, but not enough to pay all the bills. So I was looking into real estate. Some family was in that, and I saw that was really, an opportunity where anybody could do well if they really applied themselves. And so I was starting to get interested in that, and I wasn't feeling really well. I got sick, figured out I had some kind of a major health problems. I had a tumor in my thyroid and my brain. And so we got that taken care of. And during my, before surgery and during recovery, I just laid in bed and listened to podcasts because I couldn't do much else. And after doing that for a couple of months, I given myself, like an MBA in real estate investing. And I started in May of 2018 and bought my first house with seller financing, sold it on a wrap, and made $20,000 up front. And I've got the cash flow going. So I went on for about a year. I did some wholesaling, some fix and flips, a couple of rentals that I'm trying to sell now. And right now I've got letters of interest or letters of intent in on 400 units of apartments in Texas. So I work with my son, who's 17. And we work on the sub 2 houses that are pretty, that we don't have to do anything to because contractors drive us crazy. And then on the other side, I work on apartments too.
That's an amazing story. I still, even though I've talked with you a few times now about it and all, you're just a perfect example of just having an interest, getting some education, and just getting out there and just doing it.
Yeah, it's amazing what you can do when you take some massive action. And, if I wait until I understand everything fully, I never would have done anything. But you just kind of, my favorite expression I've heard is you jump off the cliff and you build the plane on the way down. And that's a highly motivating situation to be in.
Yeah, you don't have many choices on the way down. That's right. Well, listen, on our last conversation that we had, you told us about your business. And one of the things that you told us about briefly was a unique strategy that you have for finding deals that involves using real estate agents. Can you give us an overview of exactly how that works?
Yeah, so I I know that oftentimes there are situations where sellers really have trouble selling their house, and one of these was made very apparent to me by a friend who came to me and said, "Hey, Laura, my wife and I just bought a new house, and we have this really nice house. It needs a tiny bit of, flooring work and maybe some fresh paint, but in the neighborhood, there was lots of new construction going on. So, when somebody can buy a new house for the same price that they can buy a used house, of course they're going to go with the new and the incentives, and they get to pick their flooring and all of those things. And so if they had sold it through the traditional type sale, they would have had to have brought about $30,000 to closing, and they didn't have it. So that opened my eyes to that kind of situation. So I started using a piece of software that I love. It's called PropStream, and I started searching the MLS listings. And I looked for listings that had high days on market, and the listing was either expired or failed. And so, that's where I got to this point of realizing that including the realtors and getting to them before they get to that expired status can be a real opportunity there.
Right. So you were looking at not only expired listings, but just listings that had been on the market for a while and still hadn't sold. I've always called those soon to expires. That was the approach that I took with them. But you were looking at both, ones that were still on the market, just had been on the market for a long time, and then ones that had recently expired.
Yes, yes. And there's nothing wrong with these houses. I look at the listing pictures and they're pretty, and that's what I want because I don't want to have to do any renovations. And so, after just calling a few of these realtors, really the most of the time it just came down to the sellers having so little equity that they had to keep the price high to cover the cost of the sale. And so that's what I was looking for and what I've come to target there.
Now, I apologize in advance, but I'm going to have a ton of questions because I've gotten so many questions on this technique. And, and for myself, I want to know too. I mean, I think it's great. So with the expired, do you contact the homeowner directly or do you still go through the agent?
Now, with the expired, I contact the homeowner directly. And I've learned when I contact them, one of the very first things out of my mouth has to be, I am not a realtor.
Okay.
Because I think, in my market, I live in Texas, and Dallas and Houston are my main two markets for this. And some realtors are on top of their game. As soon as it expires, they're hitting it and they're calling the people, and and some people are kind of irritated by that. So I've learned I have to tell them, I am not a realtor, I am a buyer, and I'm interested in your house.
I got you. Okay. So what's your real approach to finding agents who will work with you? I mean, I know we've had some recent threads and just in history. I mean, I've been doing this for about 20 years, and it seems like there's a real adversarial type relationship between most investors and agents. So how do you find agents who will agree to work with you in anything but a plain vanilla, all cash sale sort of thing?
Well, that's a great question because there are this is not taught in their real estate training they do to get their license. So, the first time I talked to an agent, it really helps. I found if they have a personal listing that just hasn't sold, and I'll call them and tell them I really like the house. I really I think it's great, and I just notice I act curious. It's got a high number of days on market. And I just say, why do you think it's taking so long for this house to sell? And then I listen, and whatever their pain points are, I acknowledge that, and oh, that must be really frustrating. I can tell that, you've put a lot of work into that. And so it's kind of leading them to the logical conclusion that if they don't do something, that listing's going to expire, and they're going to get nothing for their time and their effort. And so, I just ask them, well, how much longer until this one expires? They'll tell me, and I'll say, well, gosh, what's going to happen is you're just going to not get anything for your money or for your time. And, then I will bring up my way of purchasing subject to, and, I just kind of breach that with saying, well, I have a way of buying houses, and I do a couple of these every month. It's definitely legal, and it's even referred to on the HUD settlement statement. You can look at line 503 on the HUD statement, and I'll ask them something like, have you ever used that line in a transaction? And most of them say no, they haven't even noticed it. And I just tell them, it's not really common in your regular, Bob Smith gets a mortgage approval and he buys a house and they live happily ever after. But it's when sellers have a problem, sometimes we have to get creative in the solutions for that. I ask them, what do you expect will happen when your listing agreement expires? And they say, well, it's going to go off market and I'm not going to make any money. So and then I just say, well, here's what it is. I offer the seller to buy their home subject to the existing mortgage, and then we figure out the best way to get you paid. Sometimes I came across realtors that were so hung up on, oh, you can't do that, that's illegal. And, I try to re-explain it to them. If I can tell they're not listening, they're not taking in anything, I just thank them for their time and wish them a good day, because it's a waste of my time. But for the others that are asking some questions and, kind of, I can see that they're following along with me, then we'll walk through an example of the situation.
So that's really smart to use the example of line 503 on the settlement statement. And I can see where they would say, well, no, I've never really noticed it, but it's right there on the settlement statement, which is a government issued document. It must be legit, right?
Absolutely. So that really has been helpful to combat this isn't legal, because why would the federal government put that on a standardized form if it wasn't legal?
Right. Exactly. Well, and you may track this. I mean, you are a physicist, so you're probably into all the analytical side of things. But if you just had to say, if you don't track it, if you just had to say off the top of your head, if you make 10 calls on 10 different properties with 10 different agents, how many would you say out of the 10 are open to listening to what you have to say, and then would actually go and present that offer to a seller who hadn't been able to sell?
I would say with what I'm seeing is about 3 to 4 out of 10.
Right. Yep.
And, I've been kind of thinking and brainstorming on ways to improve that. And one way is to network with realtors who go to REI meetups or who hang out in investor groups on Facebook, because at least they're immersed in the investing culture. And even if they don't know about Sub2, they at least probably have heard it, or at least are exposed to some alternative, creative methods of buying. And they don't just, they don't just automatically throw up the brick wall and say, oh, that's illegal because I wasn't taught in my course and I can't do it.
Right. I'll tell you, I'm actually a little bit surprised it's as high as 30 or 40%, because, like I said, a lot of times agents and investors, for some reason, I don't know if agents feel like investors are impeding, in their business some way, keeping them from from listing more or selling more. I don't really understand what it is, but I've always attributed it to agents having a very closed mind about what is acceptable, what will work, and what they can present to their seller.
Yes, I agree. And I think that may be a little different for me in these markets, because really Dallas and Houston are up there with the top markets in investing. And so just by the very numbers, they're more likely to be exposed and realize some different things are going on. So that, that may be playing in my advantage in this market. I do plan on, I'm working on something now that I'll tell you about in a minute, that will allow us to roll out to a nationwide audience. And so we've got these systems in place, and now our thought is to scale. And so I've got something there that is going to help us do that. But then, that will be interesting, is looking at the data in markets outside of Houston and Dallas to see if we see the same thing.
I've got to tell you, just listening to someone who's been in the business for 15 months talk about rolling out a system that they're using nationwide is just, that just really makes me smile. I'm telling you, you are next to Action Taker. There's a picture of Laura. that is amazing. Just congratulations. I'm really proud to hear that. That's wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Guys, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, Laura's going to tell us exactly how she gets the agents on board, and she does that by making sure they get paid. So she's going to tell you how she does that. So you guys come back.
The Sub2 Deals Show with your host, Sub2 expert William Tingle. We'll be right back. Hey Sub2ers, do you want to learn how to get the deed but need a little help getting started? Want to learn how to fill out the paperwork, how to use a land trust, how to market for deals, how to negotiate with sellers, and more? Join us in the Sub2 Deals Facebook coaching group. Get the benefits of one-on-one coaching without the big price tag. Learn to do Sub2 right with coaching in a group setting and mastermind format. Head over to sub2deals.com right now and click on consulting and group coaching. We'll save you a seat. Back to the show, the Sub2 Deals Show, with your host, Sub2 expert William Tingle.
Hey, Sub2ers, we're back with Lara Kimbrell. She is going in depth today on how she uses real estate agents to bring her leads on super nice homes that she can get the deed on and make a ton of money. And it's a really simple system. Up to now, Lara, just let me sort of recap. Basically, anyone listening could start doing this today, and it's really just as simple as getting a list of properties that have been on market for X number of days on the back side of their listing, and giving the agents a call, generating some conversation with them, commiserating with them on how long it's taken to sell, and trying to talk with them and determine why the house hasn't sold, and get them to really think about what's going to happen in a short time when that listing expires and they don't make a dime. You're able to offer a solution and get them on board and do something that works for everybody. Is that sort of how it works?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. And you said, if I remember correctly, your favorite tool to use for that access is PropStream.
It is. It offers such a wealth of information. One trick that I've learned that realtors will do for properties that have high days on market is they'll refresh the listing. And so on websites such as realtor.com, it may only show 60 days on market, but the data on PropStream reflects the actual days since it was first listed and not refreshed. So that is some inside information that you can get by looking at that. And it's also very helpful for us looking for Sub2 deals, because I can look at how much equity they have. I can see in most situations when it was purchased, the loan terms, the percentage, the terms, the length of it, and how much what the initial principal balance was. So I can just use an amortization table and find out this month what the unpaid principal balance is. And that gives me a lot of strength when I'm going in there and making my sub 2 offers.
Oh yeah, that is a great tip right there with PropStream, that they don't refresh, that they keep the actual days on market. I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. Okay. Well, when we took our break right before, you had said that you have a specific way that you present to the agent that will solve their problem and solve the seller's problem and make sure the agent gets paid. And I'm sure that's a big plus because, one of the things that we see, going back again to what I said earlier about the relationship between most investors and agents, is that a lot of times an investor will cut an agent out of a commission, getting the deed, getting the seller to actually cancel their listing agreement and that sort of thing. And I've worked with a lot of sellers before that did that. So the agent really walks away empty-handed. In your case, they get paid. How do you make sure the agent gets paid?
Well, it depends on the situation. So if this is a situation where the seller is fully expecting to need to bring cash to closing, like they know that they don't have enough equity to cover the cost of sale, then I will ask them to chip in and pay the listing agent's fee. So, the 3%, it's less than they would have had to have paid otherwise. That's not all that often, but I do try to approach it that way first. If it's a situation where the seller just absolutely can't pay anything, they were counting on a couple thousand in their pocket, then what I do is I offer to take it subject to the deed, subject to the loan only. So I'm not paying the seller any other cash. And then I offer to pay the realtor 2% from my end buyers down payment. So I do all of my dispositions on an owner finance wrap. I'm in Texas and I can't do lease options or anything. So that's just what I've chosen. So, I remind them that, hey, you're looking at getting nothing. And I know you've put a lot of work into this and I want to take care of you. I don't want to cut you out because I would hope to have, an ongoing relationship to help you in similar situations.
That's a great approach. That is a great.
I had one really nasty realtor who said, well, if somebody buys the house and they're not represented by an agent, I want 6% or I'm not even considering this. And, I've talked to other investors where they've come across realtors that were like, it's 6% or nothing. And they let houses go to foreclosure because they wouldn't do anything less than 6%, which I would not want to do business with that kind of realtor. But
and that's really short-sighted. I mean, what's the saying about some of anything's better than all of nothing?
Right.
It really is. I mean, you've got a seller there that needs to sell. You're looking at an expired listing where you make nothing, and someone comes and offers you some certainty on a solution right now, and you're going to say, oh no, I have to have, I mean, and that, again, going back to the relationship, that is one of the reasons that investors and agents have the relationships that they have.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm looking for, I've got the hunter mentality. I mean, not the hunter mentality, but the farmer mentality. I want to develop a relationship so that they'll be like, oh, Lara was really helpful. And if they or someone in their office have a similar situation, even before they try listing it, if the seller is going to have to come out of pocket to close, they could save some of their time and energy and just say, hey, I know somebody who, might can help in this situation. Do you want to just hear their offer and see what they can do?
Right. And you get into the referral thing, which ultimately is the best way to do business.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Now, you said that you offer to pay the realtor 2% from your buyer's down payment. So let me make sure I understand that correctly for all the analyticals that are out there listening. We're going to nail this thing down.
Mhm.
That's 2% of your buyer's down payment. So let's say for that you sell a house for $100,000. That's your sales price to your buyer. You're giving $2,000 to the realtor after the sale is completed.
Well, what and I'll need to clarify. What I'm doing is I'm offering to pay the realtor 2% of what I end up taking over the property for.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And then the funds used to pay it are my buyer or tenant's down payment.
Okay, so if you took that $100,000 house for say 80,000, then you would owe the realtor $1,600.
That's correct.
Okay,
And then I would use the funds, usually I would expect a buyer to bring 10,000 down payment. So I
right.
would pay the 1,600 from that down payment.
Okay, so that 2% is not payable until you close. Like if you purchase the home subject to today and it's 30 days before you get a buyer installed, the agent waits 30 days to get their payment.
That's correct.
Okay,
And we put it in writing. We have an agreement, and I keep them up to date. And
right.
so that's the waiting, up to 30, 45 days to get paid. That's again, it's a little bit of a give and take, but at least they're getting something.
Right. Well, they know that you're actively working to sell it because you're making payments on an empty house in the meantime.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, and that was my next question. Do you have a contract with the agent or is it more of a handshake sort of thing?
Yes, I put it in writing. That way they can, feel very comfortable and assured that I'm going to honor that.
Now, do you make this payment directly to the agent or is that something you have to work with their broker on?
So far, I've just paid the agent.
Okay. And
So
and you let them handle it with their broker.
I let them handle it with the broker.
I got
Yes.
you. Okay, great. Yep. So really I mean, you can still buy no money down, no money out of pocket and not be required to pay that fee until you can pay it with your buyer's money.
Right. Exactly. That's the goal.
Excellent. Right. Okay. So once you get a deal done with an agent in this manner, how often do you do repeat business with them? How often do they come back and go, "Hey, Laura, that was a great transaction we had. I got another deal over here that is about to go expired, and I'd like to present, this kind of deal to them." How often does that happen?
Well, I haven't been doing this for very long, but I do have three realtors that have brought me leads after the first one that I approached them with the first time. And that's pretty good because they see the value in that, and that's my goal is to expand that and get those repeat those repeat leads coming in.
Well, I guess so. I mean, if you can have, a stable of agents bringing you leads on a regular basis, that can be your sole marketing method. I mean, you can forget having a marketing budget. You've got agents feeding you leads constantly.
Yes, that's the goal. That's what we're shooting for.
I mean, that's an entire business model in itself. So you said you've got 3 or 4 that are sending you deals now.
Yes, yes. I have three are repeats. One's just kind of new, that are sending deals to me. And I'm still working to educate the realtors on what I'm looking for and to, clarify their expectations. Some are telling the sellers, "Oh, she can pay 100% and put money in your pocket." And I'm like, "No, no, 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 no. I can pay very well, and I generally tell them 90 to 95%. If it's a good deal, if it's a house in an area that will sell quickly, and I go down from that based on I anticipate my holding time, and I reference that Zillow sold yellow dot map, and I just pull up the address and I look at the concentration of yellow dots. It's all about the data, And if there's
Right.
a lot of sales going on, then I feel comfortable in paying a little more because I know I'm going to move it quickly. But if there are not a lot of sales, then I have to realize that I could have a longer hold time, and that's going to cost me money out of pocket up front.
Right. So what's your goal on how many agents I mean, or you just want as many as you can get and you just sort of pick and choose and cherry pick what you want?
Yeah, that is the goal. So I have some background in internet marketing, and when I was doing that as a stay-at-home mom, I had a blog, I had a website, I had a lot of things going, and I built a fairly large MLM business that way. So, kind of thinking along those same marketing, I've already put together a webinar style presentation that will educate realtors about my process and about how it works and how I can work with them. So I am working on now building the funnel on the web page to connect it so that I can run Facebook ads, or I can just, my son and I and my assistant, we can just email them out to brokerages and offer that training and have an opt-in so I can build my list of realtors that are interested, and then I can communicate with them and stay top of mind for when they get those kind of situations. And then they'll say, oh yeah, that lady that emails me all the time, she
Yeah.
can help. And so that is my goal and what I am currently working on to scale it. And I think Texas and Florida will be my initial test grounds, because they're both um, they're non-judicial foreclosure states,
Right.
and they're very landlord-friendly states. So that's where our initial test grounds will be.
Oh, so you're already going virtual.
Yes, yes.
I'm telling you, man, that's just amazing. That is so incredible. Just, I tell people every day, take the information you've got, get out there and do something with it. And you're just such an example of how that works. It just, if you do it, just get out there and do it. It was great.
Thank you. Yeah, there's just, I feel like there have been a lot of stepping stones that have gotten me to this point, and I've tried a lot of things, and now it's, I have this bat belt full of tools, and I'm like, picking the ones in the best combination to get to the goal that I have.
Right.
Um,
So in your opinion, you said you've been doing this a short time. How long have you actually been doing the agent thing here?
about 3 months.
Only 3 months.
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
And I talk to a lot of people. I talk a lot. um, and so, it's just really listening to them, their needs, and reaching out. I just see something that is definitely a need, and it's scalable. So I'm just going to go for it.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's great. 3 months, and you're already putting together a training program to go nationwide. So that is incredible. So only in 3 months, you've already got three that are sending you referrals that you've already done business with. You've got another one on board that's starting to send you leads. Um, in your opinion, do you think any sub-2 investor could build an entire business using this one model?
I really do. I think that there's so much opportunity out there. There's just hundreds of thousands of realtors, and there's not that many people that know about this model. And also, even those that do, not everyone feels comfortable, because it is more complicated paperwork wise than just a traditional, like a wholesale deal. And so some people don't want to go into it. But as long as you have a good attorney with you, absolutely, I think they could. And it's just, reaching out to enough realtors, and understanding as you said, that, there tends to be historically this adversarial relationship between realtors and investors. And I guess, I'm offering the peace pipe and trying to show that we can work together and have win-win situations. But yeah, I think you can totally do that and produce, a steady, predictable lead flow.
I do too. I mean, this is new to me. Like I said, my past experience with agents has not been good. Early in my investing, I had someone contact me that really needed to sell and their home was listed. And I said, well, there's not really a whole lot of room here. You're behind X number of payments. And, if an agent's involved, it's probably not going to work out. So they tried to get a release. The agent refused to release them and the home went to foreclosure. And, that one thing there really made me have a bad view of how the whole agent thing works. Now, I don't see that happen very often, but, sometimes, I mean, in most cases, they'll let them out. But something like that just seemed really, really unprofessional. And, I know agents do a lot of work and they want to protect their commission, but sometimes things just aren't going to work out. You have to think out of the box, and it just seems really hard to get them to do that.
Yes, absolutely. And that's where, me offering to pay the realtor 2%, I feel like is a middle ground, and makes it feel like, I'm not just caring about the seller and myself. I care about you too. And I want everyone to, have a win out of the situation. It may not be the initial win you thought it was going to be, but it's still a win. You're still walking away with something.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think it's very fair. So finally, we've been covering a lot of this stuff, and I think we've covered a lot of how it works. It's really a pretty simple process. I mean, basically what it comes down to is, we're in a people business. You've got to make contacts. You've got to educate people on what you do and show them how it's beneficial for them. But if an investor wanted to start using this strategy right away, what tips would you give them to get started today? I mean, from the time they end of the podcast, they can get out there and start making this work right now. What should they do?
The very first thing that I would tell them to do is to network. And a great place to network would be real estate meetups. So just Google, real estate meetup or real estate investor meetups in your area, because I go to a lot of meetups and there are always realtors there. So get their cards and follow up within 24 hours. Or if you want to do this all virtual and you can't find or get to any meetings, then go to meetup.com or go on Facebook and search for real estate investing groups in an area or a city that you're interested in, and then just jump in and participate and find those realtors who are they may be realtor / investors. I'm seeing a growing number of those, and just talk to them and, take them aside, show them how your process works, and teach them what kind of deals you're looking for. And then, just tell them, hey, remember, I am a visual person. That's why I wanted to do a webinar, and I'm designing a printable that they can put on their desk even. And it says, who am I? I'm Lara. I'm going to make sure you get paid. I'm looking for this kind of house, and have my phone number and my email on there. And, I don't know if they'll print it or not, but I like visual reminders. So I'm trying to think of all the things that could help me stay top of mind. Because, we do get bombarded with a lot of information in the information age. But just number one, get out there, network, meet people, follow up. And when you find someone who's open to what you're trying to do, really develop a relationship and stay top of mind with them.
Right. Good advice. And all aspects of real estate investing. Well, Laura, again, I thank you so much for being with us and explaining your program. I want to ask you this, if you don't mind. You hang out in our Subject to forum on Facebook. Do you mind if anybody asks you questions there, follow-up questions about your program and how it works?
Oh, not at all. Yeah, I'll be there. I love the group. It's got a really great vibe to it. So come join us and ask us questions, and just tag me. I'm in and out throughout the day because I've got a lot of balls in the air, but I will do my absolute best to answer questions.
Great. Okay, guys, that's it. It's a simple process. It's not overused. Laura's pretty much developed this. She's only been doing it for 3 months. She's sharing it with you. Get out there, meet some realtors, meet some agents, explain to them what you do and what you're looking for. Show them how it's a win for them, a win for the seller, and a win for you, and encourage them to work with you. She says she's successful 30 to 40% of the time. So, I mean, how many do you need to talk to today to get somebody that'll work with you? You can do this. Want to thank you guys for listening. Join us in the Subject to Real Estate Forum on Facebook. And we've got a great group there. Laura's there, and I answer questions there every day. Contact me at william@sub2deals.com if you have any questions. We appreciate you listening. We'll catch you next time. Get out there and buy some houses.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Sub2 Deals Show with William Tingle. If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave a review and subscribe. And for more great content and to stay up to date, visit sub2deals.com, on Facebook at Sub2Deals. We'll catch you next time.